The mathematicians of the day, they were coming up with mathematical ideas and concepts that had never before been conceived. Never. And being unknown, they arrived in awareness, unnamed. And there was really heated debate amongst mathematicians and physicists about these concepts, these ideas. There's argument because the question was, do they even exist? And if we're not sure they even exist, do they deserve a name? And then along comes the brilliant mathematician George Cantor. Now, George Cantor, see, at that time, almost all mathematicians and physicists, they adhere to what's called Aristotle's view of infinity. Infinity. Now maybe not, because I didn't talk about mathematics, so maybe now your metaphysical spiritual ears are beginning to perk up a little bit. Infinity. Everybody believed, as Aristotle did, that infinity was a concept, an abstraction, a potentiality, not something that was real, not an actuality, just a mere concept. But Cantor, he had a different view. His view was this, that infinity wasn't a potentiality, it wasn't an abstraction, an idea, it was a reality, an actuality. Well, this was 100 years ago. And he went further. He said that infinity could be multiplied. Here, I want you to just take a minute. I want you to think about infinity. Go there now. Think about infinity. I mean, do the best you can. All right? Now, Cantor said you can take infinity and rightly the way it really is, what we call reality, it's infinity multiplied by infinity. Go there now. Wow. Now try to bring your brain back. Stop it back in. Infinity times infinity. Today, quantum physicists easily and readily talk about infinities, multiple infinities, infinity, an infinite number of infinities. That's the worldview that we are now, the universal cosmic view that we are now living with. And it began with the conversation and the words and the names of the unseen and the unnameable over 100 years ago. Giving a name to something that was unknown and unproved helped bring it into reality. There is tremendous power in a name. This whole conversation, this whole experience that George Cantor had reminds me of Margaret Mead, who said more than once, I am perfectly ready to believe that there are 3,000 different realities going on in this room right now. And she wasn't speaking metaphorically. She was speaking of reality as she, the mystic, understood it. So tell me, this is a question you can answer. I mean, really. What is the name that we've given to the greatest unknown and unknowable? God. Other cultures would say Allah, or the divine, or the void. The void is not the void of the divine as we understand it. As I understand the Buddhist void, it lines up perfectly with our understanding of the divine. And we name God not to control God, or define God, or to limit God, but we name God so that we can better know God, so that we can come closer to God. That's why we name God. There is such power in a name. On the very eve of the Gene Houston retreat that I was so privileged to participate in last month, the very first event before the formal opening was dinner. And so I found myself standing in a cluster of people outside the dining hall. And we were being held there because the staff, and it's a great staff at the Earthrise Retreat Center at the IONS Institute in California, the wonderfully conscious staff wanted to make sure that we understood which dishes were organic and which were not, and how to tell the difference. So they let us know that I'm standing there, and I'm wearing a blue jacket, not a sport, but a jacket, and a blue Namaste hat. And a woman walks up to me, and she says, "You look important," or like you work here. And I replied, "I gratefully accept the latter, because it would be a privilege to work here, though I do not." Then she looks at me very intently and she says, "I'm not going to tell you what I do, but if you'd like, you can act as my witness this week." I said, "I will gladly act as your witness." As I think you can tell, this was a very unique introduction to a new friend. And it was a profound invitation to share in the personal transformation of another. So, I came to learn, in the coming days, I came to learn what it was that my new friend wanted to do to positively change the entire planet. I came to understand that. And after about a day and a half, by the way, I did, when I first met her, I did look down, and we all had name badges on. I saw her given name. So I knew what her given name was. After a day and a half, I began to see her in a different light. I began to see her by a different name. I saw in her one who was committed to life. She was committed to life itself. I heard from her mouth wisdom of the mystic. I saw in her eyes the growing awareness of the mystic. I came to learn that week, that morning, that she had received assurance of help of a friend who was on the other side. Yes, on the other side of life. This friend who had passed on assured her that she was with her and would assist her. This is what I saw and heard and felt in her. And so I called her Joan. Joan? That wasn't on her name badge. She said, "Joe, why Joan?" I said, "You are Joan," as in Joan of Arc. Because that is how I see you. That is the power I feel in you. That is the commitment I know in you. You are Joan. And as she took this name in, I could see her before me become visibly further inspired. This was already really inspired, really plugged-in woman. And she grew larger before my eyes. And I shared with her all that I knew of Jeanne d'Arc, the French saint. If you want to catch and take in a really good film, I highly recommend renting the 1948 version of Joan of Arc, starring Ingrid Bergman. It's a phenomenal film. And it will give you a real sense of the true history, as best as I know it. And I've done some research on Joan. They just do a wonderful job. So, one other little thing about my friend, and she shared with me this post, weeks after the retreat. It seems now that when she's been with a number of different friends, people that have known her for a long time. And she was standing right before them, and they didn't see her. And it's not because she was invisible. I don't think she has that power yet. See, they were looking for a different person. They were expecting a different energy. They weren't expecting to see Joan. She had to say, I'm right here. They went, oh, there you are. If there is something more that you want to be, is there anything more you want to be? If so, raise your hand. If there is anything more you want to be, name it. Name it. And then put on that name as you would a new set of clothing. Or, as Joan, a suit of armor. Gird your loins with the power of your new name. For as you name it, you become it. As you name it, you become it. That which you aspire to be. That which your soul longs to be. Because we are all unfolding, we are all evolving, we are all moving higher all the time. Without end. So as we now go into our time of meditation together, I make the simple invitation to be open, here and now, to the new name awaiting you.